Your eyes will not see the difference between 240 Hz and 500 Hz. All this excessive talk is what makes people confused about which screen is actually suitable for them. In reality, there are things that don't even matter, but they're written down just to make you prefer one screen over another that does the exact same job. What we're going to do today is that I'll give you the things you should focus on when you're about to buy a screen. The most important things. First, the type of screen, what technology is behind that screen. Second, the resolution of the screen, and how the size of the screen can actually ruin the resolution for you. Third, refresh rate in Hertz. Fourth, HDR, what it is. And finally, I'll talk about what you should focus on if your setup has more than one screen, and what matters when it comes to secondary screen. Now, screens basically come in two main technologies, LCD and OLED. LCD is divided into three categories, or three technologies, TN, VA, and IPS. OLED is divided into several categories too, but the most common ones right now are WOLED and QD-OLED. All of the TN, VA, and IPS technologies work the same way. They have a backlight, which is the light source, a white light. Then there's a polarizer that makes the light pass vertically. Then there are the crystals, which allow or block the light to adjust brightness as needed. Then the pixels or color filters. Then another horizontal polarizer. And finally, the light reaches your eyes. So what's different between Tennessee, Virginia, and IPS? The only difference is the way the crystals work, how they control the passing of light. TN crystals, for example, are positioned one way when they're off, and when electricity runs through them and activates a certain pixel, their structure changes into something else. Of course, they're 3D, so their actual shape looks different, but I'm simplifying it here in 2D. When they align like this, light passes through to the pixel at a specific brightness. This is where viewing angles come in, how your eyes see the light that has passed through. The way crystals move is what determines the strengths and weaknesses of LCD technologies. So, what are the pros of TN? TN is the fastest LCD technology, and it's also the oldest. Its response time is extremely low. If I move my mouse to the right, I'll see it move quickly, and the screen's reaction will be fast. That's why TN panels are the ones you'll usually find with very high refresh rates, sometimes exaggeratedly high, even reaching 500 Hz. They're also cheap to manufacture, so they're cheap to buy. They use the least power among LCD technologies. They're reliable and don't usually develop problems over time. If you buy one, it'll last with you just like the day you bought it. But the cons? The viewing angles are terrible. Your eyes will see the light from awkward angles, depending on the crystals, so you need to be sitting straight in front of it. You can't sit too much to the right or left. That's why if you have a multi-screen setup and one of them is TN, it needs to be the one in front of you, not on the side. Also, the contrast is poor. If you want to watch movies or you're someone who edits photos and needs accurate colors, TN is not good. TN is not suitable for color accuracy work. So those are the pros and cons. VA panels. Their crystals behave differently. I won't go into crystal science again, because this video is meant as a buying guide, not a deep scientific lecture. But in short, their crystals move in a different pattern. What are their pros and cons? VA has the best contrast among LCD screens. It can also achieve very high brightness. Its viewing angles are much better than TN by a large margin. You can use them for watching movies or editing pictures, but they're still not the best for that. Now, the cons: VA is very slow, like a turtle. Its response time is slow to the point where you'll encounter issues like smearing or ghosting. It looks like this. If you scroll through something, you'll see trails or shadows left on the screen because pixels can't change color fast enough. That makes VA bad for hardcore gamers. If you're a competitive player, go for TN. If you don't care much about how things look and only want speed, TN is for you. VA also sometimes has limited viewing angles in certain models and can consume more power than TN. IPS. This is the most widespread LCD technology and is generally considered the best middle ground. The way crystals work in IPS is the most fundamentally different. The first advantage you'll notice is that viewing angles are the best out of all LCDs. If you move left or right, colors don't change. Brightness doesn't shift like it does with VA or TN. Color accuracy is also excellent, the best among LCDs. If you want to watch movies or edit photos and need accurate colors, IPS is the best LCD choice. But the actual contrast depends on the backlight technology used. Is it mini LED, LED, or older fluorescent? So when you buy an IPS, make sure to know what kind of backlight it has, because that determines its black levels and contrast. IPS has very little lag. It's fast. Not as fast as TN, but much faster than VA and closer to TN. Refresh rates can be high too. I last saw an IPS at 360 Hz, and I'm sure there are higher now since screen technologies are evolving so fast. Also, IPS doesn't suffer from ghosting like VA does. IPS is good for almost everything. If you're a moderate gamer but also care about color accuracy, IPS is excellent. But if you're a hardcore competitive gamer, TN is still the way to go, and that's what professionals use. Now the cons. Black levels depend on backlight. If it's just standard LED and not mini LED, blacks will look grayish and contrast won't be very strong. IPS also suffers from something called IPS glow, which is a white glow that appears at the corners of the screen. Power consumption is moderate, not as low as TN, not as high as VA, somewhere in between. So, IPS is the middle ground. We're done with LCD. To summarize, TN for competitive gamers, because it's the fastest, but it has poor color and contrast. VA has excellent contrast, but is very slow and suffers from ghosting. IPS is in the middle, with the best colors among them, but still has some weaknesses. If you only care about refresh rate and response time, TN. If you care about contrast, VA. If you want the middle ground with great colors, IPS. Now let's move on to OLED. OLED is completely different. Each pixel produces its own light. No backlight, no crystals, no polarizers. It's just pixels lighting up directly. Electricity, cathode and anode, controls which pixel lights up. The difference between WOLED and QD-OLED. WOLED has 4 subpixels, red, green, blue, and white, while QD-OLED has the usual 3, red, green, blue. WOLED uses white as the light source, while QD-OLED uses blue. There aren't massive differences between them, since both are based on the same principle, pixels emitting their own light. Most of their advantages are the same, but WOLED generally has lower brightness than QD-OLED. Also in WOLED, when brightness goes too high, color accuracy decreases because the white subpixel starts washing out the other colors. Text can look worse too, since the extra subpixel can misalign text edges slightly. For QD-OLED, the main downside is price. It's more expensive. But both OLED types share the same big problem: burn-in. OLED pixels are organic, so they have a limited lifespan. If a pixel stays active for a long time, showing the same thing, for example, a static logo on the screen, it wears out faster. This is burn-in. You'll still see remnants of that static image even when something else is showing. That's why OLED is risky for gamers who play games with static elements like maps or health bars. These static HUD elements kill pixels over time. That's the biggest drawback of OLED, and why many people avoid it. The pros of LCD overall: brightness is very high because of the backlight, no burn-in issues, long lifespan, generally cheaper than OLED, refresh rates can be extremely high, and contrast is decent, especially with mini LED backlights. Cons: black can never be truly black because of the backlight leakage. Viewing angles are worse than OLED. Screens are usually thicker and heavier, and power consumption is higher. The pros of OLED: true blacks, infinite contrast, stunning colors, very fast response time, and low input lag, thin design, sometimes even flexible. Cons: burn-in, lower brightness than LCD. Organic pixels degrade over time, much more expensive, Some models run hot and require extra care, like pixel refreshers, which themselves shorten panel life. So in terms of beauty and picture quality, OLED beats LCD 100%. But in terms of durability and practicality, LCD is safer. You pick depending on your needs. Personally, I use both, an IPS and an OLED, knowing the OLED will degrade with time. Now about resolution and screen size. Resolution is the number of pixels on your screen. For example, 1800p means 1920 by 1800 pixels, over 2 million pixels. 4K can reach over 8 million pixels. The relationship between screen size and resolution is important. If you have a 27-inch screen with 1080p, the pixels are stretched, so image quality looks worse compared to a smaller 23-inch 1080p screen. On the other hand, if you pack the same resolution into a smaller screen, the sharpness increases. That's why larger screens should have higher resolutions, like 1440p for 27-inch screens. For smaller 24-inch screens, 1080p is fine. Many people ignore this relationship, but it's very important. Next, refresh rate. The jump from 60 Hz to 120 Hz is massive. You'll immediately notice it, like your eyes are seeing something magical. From 120 Hz to 144 Hz is still good. From 144 Hz to 165 Hz, the jump isn't as big but still noticeable. After that, from 165 Hz to 240 Hz, most casual gamers won't notice. Only professionals will. From 240 Hz to 500 Hz, there's no visible difference for the human eye. That's called the placebo effect. You think you notice something, but you really don't. So for most people, the sweet spot is 120 Hz to 240 Hz. HDR. High dynamic range makes bright areas brighter, blacks deeper, and colors more vibrant compared to SDR. It's supposed to give more realistic, vivid images. Is it important in gaming? Personally, I don't like it. My screen has HDR, but I turn it off because it messes with the look of the game too much. But that's just me. Maybe you'll find it useful. Finally, multi-monitor setups. From my own experience, focus on size matching. I made the mistake of buying one 27-inch screen and two 24-inch side screens. That made the setup look awkward and caused problems when moving the mouse between screens because the edges didn't align. It was frustrating. So my advice, always match the sizes. If your main is 27-inch, make the others 27-inch too. Resolution can also be matched for perfect alignment, but size is the most important. In the end, what you need to focus on when buying a monitor: type of screen, technology, resolution compared to size, refresh rate, HDR or not, and compatibility with your setup. When searching online, type in exactly what you want. IPS, 1440p, 240 Hz, HDR, and your preferred size. That way, you'll find the right screen for you. As for FreeSync versus G-Sync, they're basically the same. Both sync your monitor's refresh rate with your GPU's output frames to prevent tearing. No real difference. Don't worry about it. This video wasn't meant to be overly scientific. I didn't go into deep physics or quantum mechanics. The point was just to help people quickly understand the difference between TN, VA, IPS, OLED, QD-OLED, WOLED, and so on, so you can decide what to buy. If you want a more scientific deep dive, that might come in the future. But for now, this is a straightforward buying guide. That's the end of the video. Hopefully I didn't go too long. See you in the next one. Goodbye.